Welcome to episode 8 of Prosper by Design, where real people bring real questions about how to live, create, communicate, and make money in alignment with their human design. I'm your host, Chris Prochaska. I help entrepreneurs, corporate teams, and speakers see how they're uniquely designed to profit with purpose in a way that's natural and authentic to their design, both as an individual leader and as part of a company or organization. You see, everything is energy, and we communicate energetically first and foremost. Your human design is a map of your energy. It shows how you think, experience emotions, interact with others, make decisions, live your purpose, share your ideas, market yourself, and even make money. My guest today is a generator, or classic builder in business terms, and our conversation covers a lot of ground, especially around love, which is her life theme or incarnation cross. Grab your own human design chart and follow along. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey everybody, welcome. So welcome to this episode of Prosper by Design. We are looking at how we are designed to prosper. And today I have a very special guest, a client of mine, Stefanie Joseph, who's just beautiful inside and out. And her work around radical accountability is just, it's so spot on. I love it. So I am going to put her whole bio and her website in the show notes. I just want to dive right in and have you tell us a little bit about radical accountability, where it kind of came from, and then we'll just see where it goes and what you're up to. Yeah.
I love it. Thanks for having me, Chris. I'm so happy to be here chatting with you.
Yeah.
So radical accountability, it's been my life until it was mostly unconscious for my adult years. And that's where it's been really fun.
Do you mean fun in that sarcastic sort of way?
Fun as in,
fun.
Wow. Yes. Air quotes as my kids say. Yes.
Yeah.
I've been very successful in business, went straight to college, just the typical what everybody expected me to do. Star student, college right away, work, great jobs, great paying jobs.
Yeah.
And when I say like the unconscious part is I was living for everybody else and was making decisions based on everybody else. What I thought, just the little things that I, hear from my parents, my dad, they were always, the stories and the struggles that we had growing up around money and how that formed my view of money. And it was always just, you make money, you go to work, you do that, you make money. And I did that in it was 2013, the end of 2013, just really had this huge wake up that looked around in a sense and said, this life is not what I want. Like, it's not what I created. Like, there's fabulous things. I was great, amazing kids and an awesome family and a husband. Yeah. But I realized it was not mine. Like mostly geared around the work and geared around what I was creating as far as, income and all that stuff. So went through this journey of personal development, The Secret, as most people's little gateway.
Right. Yeah, exactly. The gateway drug.
The gateway drug to spirituality. And I was just this massive learner and read every book and trusted every guru. And, and through that time, there's a few years of just doing that, reading and just soaking it in. I once again realized, like, I'm still basing my beliefs on everybody else's instead of truly finding what was me, and that radical accountability of who am I and what is my purpose and what do I bring. And it was 2018 during a meditation, it literally just unfolded where it's like, quit living for everybody else. Yeah. Truly, like, find out what it is that you want to do and do it. And I laugh, like, I remember having a lot of awesome spiritual friends and they're like, just go within, all the answers are within you. And I would get so pissed hearing that, because I'm like, how do you do that? Like, what,
right.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, I can't, and I meditated and I journaled and did all that stuff, but what does that mean? And so really, when I started actually truly asking myself and during the meditations, just saying, okay, what is it that I want? Went through some pretty transformational processes and around inner child work and all of that awesome stuff. And finally, like, did some shadow work, which I was avoiding. And, just said, you know what, it's my time and I can live with what I'm doing, but it starts with me. And so that radical accountability piece is, who am I at my core, at my soul level, and what is my contribution, and how am I going to show up? Instead of, you can blame it on your drama, your traumas, I always say, you can, your childhood, that inner child work, all of that, but it still ultimately comes down to you and what you are willing to do with it.
So true. So true. Oh my gosh. So what has been so 2018, so it's been a little over a year-ish, right around a year that you've had that, like, whoa, this is, kind of, oh, I've been working on this all my life, which is most, again, in the design work, you have been working on it all your life. This is part of your design, right? But what's been the biggest shift that you've made, or like the action that you took? So you had that, kind of walk us through the process of, like, you have that, and then what happened? Because I think this is a piece, right? There's the download and the accountability, radical accountability of going, oh my God, I just saw that, like seeing the truth, being willing to see the truth, then seeing the truth. Woo, then comes action. Tell me a little bit about that piece.
You know what? It's as simple as it sounds. It's that action piece.
Yeah.
And it's that, I believe we're all intuitive. We're all spiritual beings, and we all have that ability. We either shove it aside and say, not a big deal, and we don't take action, or we take action. So for me, it was, I have a kid journal that I created that's a mindful journal for kids. And when I trusted it, and I've been thinking about it for a couple years, and I was talking to a friend, she's like, just do it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I made that commitment. The next day I journaled, and like hundreds of ideas just literally flowed of what goes in the journal. Then I created it. I'm not a graphic designer in any way. And I created this beautiful, amazing journal all within a few days, because I trusted that download that I received. And then I took action. Found, it just was the perfect timing. The printer, cost-effective printer came in line. And then even after that, I was like, okay, I have this journal, now what? Yeah. And what had sold to a friend, and the mom's like, okay, well, what do I do with it? I'm like, well, what do you mean? What do you do with it? You just use it. And she's like, I don't do this stuff. So then the idea around teaching the moms how to use it, and through that, trusting those downloads, it's like, the kids are pretty powerful. They know this stuff. Yeah. A lot of it is the adults and the, social experiences that they have that starts teaching them differently. And so then they, I'm like, okay, I got to work with moms. So I created a Mama Connection course that's just really teaching the moms how to connect with themselves. And really, as I kept taking those actions, it always came down to self, and what am I doing what am I doing in my life to create what I want? And so the course is out there, and people are loving it and really just trusting themselves with it. And then it's like, okay, then the next piece came with this radical accountability, which came in another meditation. I was like, what do I do with that? Yeah. And I remember even feeling like, oh my gosh, this is huge.
Yeah.
This is huge. And so of course, like my human self, I go Google and I go like all of the things. And then when I really was just be about it and came to it's like, teach people, like, through your experiences, through your journey, how did you get to that place of accountability? Right. But bottom line, it was just that action piece of receiving the download, taking the time to be in that space of going within. Yeah. And I love what I was listening to one of your other guests talking about mindfulness, and he said his thing about trying or doing meditation, and he just realized meditation just is. Yes. And that's what it just is, being in that space where you can have those connections with your source, your God, whatever that is for you, but then taking the action of when you get those downloads, and just one step one step.
Exactly. And most of us are designed, right, as builder slash generator types, which you are, I am, step by step by step, right? It's not about like, oh, I see the whole thing laid out in front of me. It really is that you get clarity and then you take another step, and then you get clarity and you take another step. I often will say it's not about seeing the way, it's about the way you're seeing. Like, that's what we have to change. It's not like everybody wants to see the way. I know I have. I'm like, give me a freaking, just show me the whole thing. I just want, just like a map and our design is that map, but it's really about changing the way we see versus seeing the whole way. And on this journey, we really do get the next step, and we get to see the next step as we're moving forward, as we're taking the action. And I see this so many times where we have the insight, we have the aha, we have the download, and then immediately, who am I to do that? What the hell? I could never do that. I don't have that training. I don't know. I don't know. Right. And then we, people just don't take action because they're like, I don't know. And yet it's just that tiny next step that reveals the next step, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, you've been really making this shift then from corporate into entrepreneurship. So tell me what that's been like for you, because I'm sure that a lot of your clients are also doing that. And I know there are people that are listening that are probably either in corporate dreaming about it or wondering, or or happily in corporate, but thinking maybe they want to make a move laterally versus outside. Yeah.
What's coming up for me is, in the spiritual development and personal development world, we talk a lot about what's your purpose, and are you living your purpose?
Right.
And to me, it was always assigned to the work you're doing.
Right.
Like what's your job, or if you're an entrepreneur and all this. And, I started entrepreneur, the side gigs in 2013. And I always remember saying, well, I'm happy in my job. I really actually like my job and I'm good at it. Mm-hmm. And it was us versus them type mentality of the corporate versus those entrepreneurs. And, that separation between the two. And I remember that didn't resonate with me, because I'm like, what if somebody is really happy with their work, but there's something else that motivates them, that drives them, that just by, like, to me, purpose isn't a thing, it's about being. And that, yes. And working with you and learning more about the human design, it's like, just seeing who I am as a person, or my design, and trying to be something else when I'm just being. And that shift, like you said, it's not, some people are happy in there, and that's great. We need people working in all angles. Mm-hmm. It's really about just finding out what motivates you, what's within you, and being that purpose in whatever situation that you are.
Exactly. In fact, it's interesting. I remember learning early on that our purpose is just to be us, right? Our purpose is to be in alignment with our design. Because when we do that, we will naturally be in the right environment. We'll naturally work with the right people. We'll be actually doing the actions, the things that are congruent for us, that bring us a sense of satisfaction or success or, peace or surprise and delight, depending on what type we are.
Yeah.
And there are people that are designed to be in corporate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I found in talking to my clients, I was talking to one yesterday, and, she was saying, I'm so caught up in, everybody talks about purpose. And I just don't know what that is.
Yeah.
And it just broke my heart, because that's what I thought for years, like, find your purpose and live your purpose. And, here's a vehicle that you could do that on, and here's this. But then the big missing piece was, who am I? Like, what do I be to just be, not to like create,
right?
To do. Yeah. Like, being, you nailed it with the humans. I'm being, and therefore that's my purpose. And so it's not this us versus them mentality. And that was always something that I struggled with, because I'm like, I'm good at what I do.
Mm-hmm.
there is something more that I know that I get to contribute. So how does that look? And I personally am making that shift because that is, that's pulling on me that I get to serve that and serve in that way. But it's just truly about what is it that who are you?
Yeah.
Taking accountability of who you are and
Mm-hmm.
then living that. And it might be that one week you're serving the homeless because that's what your choice is, because you're just being that, and that you don't have to be feeding the fixing the hunger problem of the world. You're just doing your part.
Exactly. And what I'm also hearing for you and is that the expression of radical accountability for you is to go, this is my net. I'm happy doing this, and yet to be fully me and to be radically accountable to that I know about myself is to take an action that takes me out of that, which is scary as hell, right? Like, I mean, how many people that like, oh, it's that, you said it earlier, are you living for everyone else or are you living for you? Because I really think when we are living for us, we can't help but live for other people. It's like, it's this paradoxical. The very first talk I ever gave when I first started my business it was along the lines of like, selfishness is the kindest thing that you could do for others. And it was sort of like, I was like doing these kind of, strange twists on it, but it's true. Like the more the more we go, what makes me happy? Like then you're happy and you be happy and you turn other people on to that. And so that's also what I'm hearing. And tell me a little bit about what that looks like as far as, the clients that you're either already seeing or that you're also like, wow, I'm really seeing that there's a group of people that I'd really like to be working with. And we'll also look at the design too. I'm just kind of curious to hear you first, and then we'll look at the design.
Okay. What I've been finding is that as I'm being me, and I know you may talk about it, but my cross is love, and you can explain it better than I can, but my way of understanding, like, I am love.
Yes.
As I go step out, just not even step out because it's just who I am, but as I'm out there, I'm attracting those people in that there's just this unspoken language. And I always felt like I had to tell people about that. And when we first started connecting, and you're like, that's just who you be. You don't have to tell people because they already know that.
Right.
And, as I was working with somebody yesterday, she came to an event that so I do monthly events that's geared around connection and this radical accountability, spirituality, that kind of stuff. And I put on an event thinking I wanted to do one for kids, and I almost canceled it because it just was, something didn't feel right. But I had one person that bought a ticket, and then the other ones was a freebie. But I said, you know what, that one person bought the ticket, so it's going to be about that one. And this woman and we were supposed to meet. And it was proof to me that when you are in alignment, the people do come into your space.
They do.
And, where this is not as I'm working with clients, and schedules might be different, but I'm finding that the people that come in have aligned schedules with me because it works for both of us. And there is that alignment piece. And I mean, we were the same when we were talking yesterday, and so many synchronicities, so much alignment of, it was like, okay, yep, we knew we were supposed to be in this space together. And it's been really cool to see that unfold. And it truly is just by allowing, taking those actions, trusting, because when I was like, should I cancel this event? And I really just went in where I was like, nope, I feel this person that committed, and I felt them, and that's who I went for. And that was exactly what it was supposed to be.
I love that. I love that. It's interesting. I'm curious if where and you can share as much as you want or not around this, but one of the things that you and I've talked about around love is just you being love. And it's so clear, like that you're like this pure, non-judgmental experience of love, and you come out of a background and and experiences personally that are situations that sort of on the outside may look like it's supposed to be about love, but when you get behind the scenes, it's not. Are you willing to talk about that at all? Or
What do you?
I mean,
No.
a little bit more about like the background that you grew up in, as far as the religion and that.
Yeah,
Is that relevant to this conversation? If it's not,
absolutely.
we can leave it out. But if it is, I think it'd be interesting, because there's a piece of that that's just so, it really gets down, because you've mentioned spirituality a couple times, and just that radical, accountability to, you and love, and what love really is, and what love really means. And while you're talking, I'm just going to share your design so people can see what we're talking about, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm glad you actually brought this up, because one big piece that, and one area that I was always scared to work in, because of 18 years of, I was raised in a religious situation, and it wasn't open with, like, my family wasn't that hardcore, but it was, this is what we do. This is what our family does. And I left at 18 and never looked back. And it wasn't ever like out of anger. I just realized that it wasn't for me. The belief systems didn't line up.
Yeah.
But it's been interesting now that I have a desire to work with clients that are in that, I don't know if this is really for me, but I am so scared, because you have this community that, even though it's real, it is a real community. It's not necessarily a self always. I mean, everybody's always different, but it's sometimes I'll just speak from my experience. It wasn't a self-chosen community, because I was born into it.
Right.
And I remember when I left and really didn't look back. I didn't like go through the crazy, wild years or anything like that. And then now, as I'm realizing that I get to work with people that are having those similar experiences, it's truly it's based out of love. That, you can have anger, and anger is this valid emotion. And in fact, it's a really powerful emotion. But if you stay in that place of anger, rather than, I choose to look at it as lessons, and I choose to look at it as, where was it good and what did it teach me, versus where was it superficial and maybe more programming, maybe more I call them stories, those stories of, this is how you live, this is how you be, this is what your beliefs are, and you're not able to really, or I wasn't able to in the situation say yes or no. It was just, this is what we do. Until in my teens, that I started questioning it and say, no, this actually is not in alignment, and then it takes, when you're leaving community where you have this container of love, because that's what you believe it is, and that's what it's focused on. It plays with you, and it has a hold on you. So to be able to, I hope I'm kind of in a roundabout way answering that, in that I believe the stories of what are talked about in the religious setting, for example, and in mine, is that this is done out of love. We love you because we want you to get to heaven and all of those things that they talk about, but I don't feel like there's choice in the matter. And it was, more of a forced experience of what you had. And so when, full circle into the radical accountability, this isn't about spirituality versus religion. Right. This is about finding what your truth is. What is it that you believe in? And if the religion or a community or business, whatever that is, if that resonates with what you ultimately decide is your truth, then great. Community is huge. Like, that's a big part of my life. I believe we need community. We're tribal. I think we have that instinct, that natural part of us. And so that's big for me, but it's making sure that it's aligned with your truth.
Exactly. And here's the interesting thing about, human beings, is that we automatically, like if birds flock and certain animals like herd together, and that, like, human beings, we collect into small groups, into small tribal groups, and hierarchy is built into the system, and all of that, right? And it's it's partly for survival, preservation, and, and that community, that connection, which is so natural to us. And, whether we're talking about a religion as an organization, or we're talking about a corporation as because a lot of people, for them, they're like, I don't know, the religion isn't the issue. It's like, these are my people. Like, I've worked here for years.
Yeah.
This is where my whole community is, because that's what happens is, right. You work place, and that's where all your friends are. That's where a lot of your social things happen. And it's a really deep, profound connection.
Yes.
That can be, when you're in that place of like, wow, how can it be true that I love this community, and yet I don't fit here anymore, or this isn't working for me, right? And that's what I heard
Yes.
you grappling with and talking about.
Yes, it's that community versus individuality, and we all join together. And a lot of times in those communities, the individuality piece kind of wavers, because we're all, a like-minded goal, a like-minded belief system, whatever. So then we're just more focused on the community, and the individuality piece slips a little bit.
Right. So it's interesting, and that whole thing of, right, the right angle cross of the vessel of love for you is you have all the love gates or traits in the identity and direction right here, which is what this is. So the 10, the 15, the 46, and the 25. And, you are love walking. My husband is also the vessel of love. His is slightly, I think he has the numbers in a different order, but it's so interesting. Like when he's in alignment, so on, right? And if he's off, we can see it's off, right? So how do you know when you're like on and you're in that place, and when you're off? What does off look like for you?
Oh, it's the last couple weeks.
It looks like the last couple. If we followed you around with the camera.
I actually just sent an email out to my clients, just talking about this, that for me, when I am out of my alignment, I retreat and I go quiet. I don't, it's just, here's my core people, I've got my family, I'm doing the day-to-day, and it's all good. But I really retreat, and it's not in a good way. Whereas, like even this morning, I'm like, okay, just 5 minutes to meditate this morning to get connected. And then coming out of that meditation was like, oh, where have I been? And so for me, I shut down, and I start feeling like other people are pulling away. And I teach this concept quite often about the mirror effect of what you see in other people is actually what's going on inside yourself. And I literally feel people move away from me, like there's a kind of this wall in a sense, because I'm not open to be receiving them. And it's easy to blame, again, that accountability piece. It's easy to blame everybody else. Oh, you're having a bad day. And when you turn that mirror on yourself, it's like, oh, wait a minute. It's me. It's me.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'll add that it's, what I was sharing with my clients today was, it's not about judging that space, because I could have just really oh crap, the last 2 weeks they can, they're gone, they're done. But it's really about honoring it and saying, okay, now I was there, and that didn't, how did that feel? Is that how does it feel the way you want to be feeling, or does it not feel the way you want to be feeling? And for me, it wasn't how I wanted to be on a day-to-day basis, but it also is, okay, no judgment. You went through that, but how do you get to learn from that? And what choices do you get to make differently when you start realizing that? And so I'm glad you're bringing this up, because this is a big piece of realizing, okay, I'm not in alignment, and how does that look like? And it's common. It's the same thing every time I'm out of alignment.
So let me ask you this, because I think I love having this conversation, because I think, so I'm going to throw something out there, and then I want to hear if or how it shifts your perception of alignment or out of alignment.
Okay.
And let's have I just want to see what happens. So the 1-3, this profile or public role needs a break. It actually requires engagement, disengagement, disengagement. And because, and yet you could see how, right, when we think about love, I'll speak for myself, and then I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. When we think about love, it's sort of like love is being with other people. Love is connection. Love is that. I mean, it's obviously connection here, because you saw that when you went into meditation. You're like, oh my God, why did I leave myself?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And spirit, that spiritual connection, which has nothing to do with religion, completely about connecting there. But it also, there's also connection here, right? Like between us and others. And there's a natural, like I am a 5-1 profile, and I need alone time. I require alone time. You in some ways also require breaks and downtime, and to move away and to have that break and then come back and it's like restarts. It's like a press, press pause, do your thing, and then come back in and re-engage in a new, almost like I have to just clear whatever that was and come in and re-engage. And that's actually natural for you. However, if you don't know that, and it kind of seems incongruous with love, right? And it for sure, when you're in that place and you feel yourself pulling away, and you watch other people pull away, it doesn't feel good. So then it's like, well, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to pause, and I'd love to hear, like, does that shift your experience? And if so, how? And what's a new story you could tell yourself about it?
I actually really appreciate you bringing this up, because, I always say it's not about judgment, but the whole time I'm in judgment of this just feels yucky. I'm judging, like, well, I don't want to do anything. And, oh my gosh, I know I've, committed to a date to have this new course done, or not, all of this. And I'm feeling like, well, I'm letting everybody else down. When you can almost embrace that pause and take it, own it and take it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like it would shorten the time of the pause too.
Right.
And you can just honor it and say, okay, I'll take it. Let's, I'm going to go in my own little corner. I'm going to have my pity party, and I'm okay with that. And it's okay, because that's who I am. It's okay. And then to be able to just truly let it out. I think that it probably, for me, it would shorten that time frame, rather from weeks to, whatever it is, and whatever it's supposed to be. But I feel like that would definitely, I like that.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, is it a pity party? And it might be.
No.
But I'm wondering, is it a pity? Because you say that, I'm like, I don't know what I know about you. I'm wondering, is it simply that because you're very independent, you have a lot of independence in your design, and I'm wondering if it's a requirement to go inward, and it's connecting with love in just a different way that is more inward. And again, this goes back to, how we're raised. And I circled this one earlier when you were talking about tribal and connection. You're very tribal and connected, and it has, this is the emotion center, right? Like you're the glue that holds things together and people and groups together. And so when you withdraw, the group, even family, might go, hey, where's mom? Like, what's going on? Where did she go? And there's that, on the one hand, you're being radically accountable to who you are, but because you didn't know that that's actually what you required, it is, there's a level of judgment. And this happens I've done it. I think everybody does it. And we make up then a story about what it means in the context of what is okay and socially acceptable. Whereas it's actually the most radically accountable thing that you could do, because it's so natural to you but the world wouldn't see it that way.
Yeah. And I use this in my email about, from a young age, we're taught to share everything, share.
Yeah.
And then, like when you become selfish, I'll just use that, when you start worrying about yourself first, and there is that story around selfishness, and I am the glue of the family, and that totally shifts it, and it is a story. It's a story around, am I throwing a pity party, or I'm just being me, and that this is what I get to do, and you know what, and actually speaking that, and not, instead of just retreating, just say, hey, you know what, I'm feeling it, and I get to take some time for mom, myself, and just be me. Mom's still here. I'm not going anywhere, but I deserve this space. I deserve the time.
Yeah.
And for vocalizing it.
Yes. Right. Because because that actually is the thing that keeps the connection going.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm taking a break, and I'll be back.
Yeah.
And, or communicating that and yet when we do it and we don't know kind of why we're doing it, there is a consequence, right? It's a natural consequence. And also there's a perception though. And I love what you said. You're like, you pull back and you're like, I feel other people pulling back. And it's like, are they, or is it that you're right? Like
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, are we
both the mirror works both ways. Yeah. Very
exactly.
True.
Right. Yeah. It's so fascinating how so much of the time, and you're not alone in this. Every person that I talk to, and even I look at my own design, it's like those things that we judge ourselves about as much. Whenever I met this woman at a coaching event a couple months ago, and I asked her a question. It was about judgment or something. She goes, I don't judge anything. I'm not judgmental. And I was like, I call bullshit. Like, like, hello, you're a human being, like that is, to say, oh, I'm not judgmental. I'm like, that's actually judgment, because you're judging the fact that being judgmental is a bad thing. Right? Like, I'm like, just claim it so that you can see it. Claim it so you can see it. Claim it, and then you can do something with it. But anyway, that we have this judgment about like where we're in flow and when we're not. And because, the thing is that sometimes it doesn't feel good. Right. And you said the pity party, and I'm wondering, and this could be my own thing, so I'm just going to say it, and then I'd be curious to hear how it lands, is that I'll feel guilty about taking that time, even though I know that that's exactly what is required, and I feel guilty. So then I feel bad about that. So then it kind of it gets piled on there. And
Yep.
I'm not clear.
Yep. I'm totally with you on that. It's the guilt. And that's interesting, because the conversation I was having yesterday was about all this shame and guilt. And the conversation was around religion too, of the shame and guilt that the people that we were talking about felt because of the belief systems that they had. And it was that shame and guilt piece, and how it dramatically affected them. It was much, like, I mean, I see a judgment on bigger versus little, like it just
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Also, I've been thinking a lot about guilt and shame, and really honestly, like looking at it in my own life, and I think all of us, there's just shame. Like we all have some of that, but shame is it's about us, right? It's very internal. It's really truly is about us, and actually, working through it is really an inside job, and being, it's actually almost easier, I would say, than guilt, because guilt is so much about the other as well. It's our impact on the other, or guilt has so much more to do with the impact of what we do or don't do, what we say, what we don't say with other people. And because of that, it's a hell of a lot messier. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so like that.
Again, worrying about everybody else before ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that radical, like when it's shame, you're like, okay, I mean, I don't mean to, diminish shame because it can be debilitating. And yet it's like, oh, okay, well, I can, I got that. Like, it's fairly clean as far as treatment goes, as far as like moving past it. Like it's fairly clean. Guilt. Oh my Lord, there's like all these little tendrils with guilt that can be really messy. And that's, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm.
Yeah.
So anything else that's popping around the, taking a break or like kind of giving yourself some grace there around that? Is that helpful?
No, I think that was, it's, of course, I think it's always perfect timing because I was experiencing that just recently and just sent an email saying, you know what, it's okay to have these moments, but still coming into this call saying, well, maybe I was having a pity party. Like it's really fascinating, and it's always in perfect timing. Like,
Yeah.
your lessons, if you're choosing to be open to them, come at the right time. So this has been very valuable.
Yeah. I love that. And, and also get like again, this conversation is super valuable because I know your clients, right? They are grappling with this.
Yeah.
And mine do too in some ways. And yet because our experiences are different, I was just talking with another person in an interview, our fractal lines are different. So we live in a holographic universe. And I'm actually doing an episode 7 will be around this is, sort of our what does it mean to have our fractal lines? And it's really, our ideal clients are right in our design. They're there in our design and in the things that we grapple with. And you and I've had this discussion around, having these people that are very intelligent and, love is a big piece of it, and they're independent and yet what does it mean for them to move away from the group,
Yeah.
to step away and to, like maybe they're the glue also, or they're really afraid to step out, whether they're in a corporation or they're in a religious organization or some other organization. I mean, hell, I've been to like women's networking groups where it felt like, oh my God, if I leave here, I won't be successcul, even if it wasn't a good fit, and it's like, oh my God, what the heck. Right. And, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
I agree with you. And I've seen that already, that it's choosing you. In fact, my course that I'll be releasing is the first thing is about, you're making a commitment. Like, you are making a commitment to yourself. This isn't to me as a facilitator, this is to you. And what does that commitment look like? And choosing into you. And the other pieces will come, but it's that commitment.
Oh man, right there. And you know what? On paper sounds so it sounds so easy. I'm so glad you're walking people through that, because it's that's it. Like, we get that and the world starts to come together. It just does.
Yeah. Part of it too that's coming up for me right now is the ego part of it, that once you say yes to something, it's like, are you sure? Because this is stepping outside than what I know. So it's my job to protect you. So I'm going to protect you. I'm going to bring up some things to challenge, to make sure that you're sure you're stepping into this. And I know for myself, sometimes I've listened to that challenge and said, oh, nope, never mind. And then revert back to what's comfortable. And so it's that and that is, I believe, where the community aspect of it and that tribal feel of having that person you can go to that says, you know what, I'm kind of feeling it. I always say, you teach me this too, that I know the answers. I'm just here to support you. Right. But it is nice to have that person that can keep the pushing cake. Keep moving forward.
Exactly. And I love that you brought up that ego piece, and that, because I think that's it's a big piece of it, and that worthiness piece. And this kind of goes back to that shame, guilt, right? Like shame is like, am I worthy of choosing me? And that when we get into a group context, you know, shame doesn't live very long in exposure. And when you're with other people who are expressing like, yeah, I don't know if I'm worth it. And then you hear someone, you're like, holy shit, I feel the same way. Oh my God. Like, you know, and then you realize, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I'm not uniquely fucked up, you know, like everyone is, you know? So if you just claim I'm a little bit fucked up or a lot, depending on the person.
Yep.
And, you know, like there's nothing wrong, but we're a little bit fucked up. So
Yep.
it's just, anyway, so
Yeah.
it's like have some fun with it. Right. But
Yep.
then we understand, like we see, and so that container of the tribe of that we call, you know, the tribe. Some people say their tribe or their community is so important. That's a big piece of what you do, is really offer that very that holding space for love and for community. It's natural to you. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And yet part of your process is to be able to step away from it, sort of almost shake it off, and then come back in sort of, oh, this is what I learned. You know, I learned what works, what doesn't work, because that's the 1-3, you know, I learned through the school of hard knocks. I say with the 1-3, you're failing your way to success. You're literally like, you know, just do, oh, I did that wrong. That didn't work. That didn't work. That didn't work. But that's actually part of what how you work with people, is you're like, you're very clear. Like, I've been there, you know, not only do I have the t-shirt, I actually like bought property there and lost it all in the, you know, in 2008, whatever. So you've learned and you've lived it. You've lived and learned. And that's part of the energetic transmission and container that you offer to your clients, right?
Yes.
But that worthiness and that, am I worth it, to be radically accountable to myself. I love how what you're creating for people is that they can enter into this dialogue. They can enter into this process at any stage of the game. And at any stage of the game they're held, whether they have never, ever even considered what they feel inward and what they're all about. They're just like brand new to it. They're probably listening to this going, oh my God, I never even thought about that. Or that feels deeply familiar to me, but I've never thought it would be possible that I could even question or go within, right? Or they're like you at the beginning, are like, oh, the answers are within. Yeah, whatever. yeah. And then you do go there. Mm-hmm. And yet there's also people that have been walking this path for a long time, and they're ready for that next step. They've experienced success. They've experienced either moving away from their community or their tribe, and they're maybe in that place of like, now what? You know, where's my next place? Or, you know, any step along that way, there's a container here for them to step into love. And what does love mean? And what does that really, really look like in behavior, in expression, in choices, in being in community, in being with yourself?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it fascinating, you know, most random places, and it's been like this, you know, my whole life, but to really be conscious about it. I'll be getting deep conversations while I'm getting my teeth cleaned, you know, and they'll be like, I don't know why I'm sharing this all with you. And at first I was like, well, no big deal. I'll listen. And the more that it's come up for me and I'm being aware of it, now it's like, yeah, I know. I already know why you're sharing it with me, and it's okay. Like, and don't stop. Like you need this, or you're feeling, you know, the pull. So just trust it. And that's how a lot of conversations. I don't know why I'm sharing this with you, but I just feel really comfortable sharing. Lay it on me. I got it.
Exactly. You said something earlier and it just popped for me. And so, you know, as I said, I don't like sit and prepare these. It's really in the dialogue, whatever pops, and something's popping for me to share with you and to our listeners who happen to have this as also in their design. The 3457. So it's actually this little thing right here. this little strength or channel. And it looks a little confusing because you have a number of, there's actually three or four different channels right here that are defined. So this one is all about power, personal power. And your, the analogy that I use is, and this also could be a reason why sometimes you need to pull away and be by yourself, is this power is for you. It's actually not for you to give to other people. However, those of us who have it, because I have it too, is, and it's the healer, right? Like we are naturally will heal because we naturally have this power, and people want to, you know, we're like, how can I help you? Like, how can I serve? Right.
Yeah.
And I like to think of it sort of like, imagine this my moonstone pendant as a vial of pure power. Right. And we can, if you've seen the new Wonder Woman movie, you know, in the last couple of years, and you know that the bad guy, like when he breaks open that vial and he smells it and he gets all super powered, like that's what it's like, only in a good way, not the bad way. But we have these vials that are hanging around our neck, and everybody can see it. We may or may not be able to see it ourselves, depending on if it's conscious or not, but other people see it and they're like, ooh, she's got some power. Oh, she's got something over there, right? Like she can help me. And that is for us to smell and to get grounded, and then to not give, but to hold space for or to serve. And it's our own empowerment. And then through our own empowerment, we empower others, or we teach them to empower themselves. And the hitch that can come here is that it's very easy for someone to come up and say, ooh, can I have a little bit of that? And you're like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. Or here, I can do that for you, or I can help you, or try to jump in and actually do the work for them, because maybe you can see what would actually shift it, and they are just doing their dance, right? And so it's a really interesting thing as you continue to move forward. And again, for anybody who has this unique, it's very intuitive. It's like you can intuitively know exactly what a person needs to hear, or what they need in order to move forward, in order to become more empowered. And yet, even though you can hear all that, they may not be able to hear it. They may not be receptive. They may not want to do the work yet. They may not be ready. And so when we start to kind of jump over, or as I say, like jump in the pool with them, you know, and try to do it for them, or almost buoying them up in the pool, if you will, holding them up while they're in that place, we can become depleted. And that might be another place for you to watch yourself and go, where am I actually misusing my power and giving it away, such that at the end of the day, it's not that I've used my power and I feel like, ooh, I put my head on the pillow and I feel a deep sense of satisfaction. It's where you feel very depleted. And you're like, I need a break. I need all y'all go away. Just get out my face. And like, does that make sense? Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The thing that was coming up is the piece about, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that's so true. Like, and I've always, not always, there's been times where especially when I started learning about spirituality and, you know, law of attraction, and, you know, even like how you can create illness and create, you know, all these. And I would just like almost want to not force it's not necessarily the right word, but, you know, want to just put it like, just take this and drink it, you know, just take it. And it has not been received well.
Right.
And then I feel then frustrated that they're not, well, I'm giving you this thing, why aren't you? And to know that that's for me.
Yes.
That's my drink. That's huge.
Yeah. And so then you embody that, and you hold that power. And then what happens is that they'll come and go, hey, what do you got over there? And you're like, oh, yeah, let me show you, like, here's the information, or here's the resources, or here's, you know, or you're holding it. And then I often talk about whether we're talking about a business, we're talking about a speech, you know, talk, we're talking, it's communication, right? It's energetic. It's a transmission. That when we are in our power and we're doing what we're here to do, there's a transmission that happens. And it's not so much what we say at that point. You know, I mean, I've watched enough of my TED speakers and other speakers and go, wow, the words are coming out, but the energy doesn't match the words, right? It's, you know, it's like, oh, this will empower you. Let me shove it down your throat. Like that's right. And so it's that when you really get like, oh, this is about me holding my power. And
Yeah,
then,
I like that.
then it's a transmission, and you invite people into a world where they can build their capacity for that on their own without depleting yourself at all.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So just watch that when you feel those times where you need to take a break, start to notice, there's natural ones that you're just naturally going to do, right? Like it's just kind of a natural little restart button, push the restart button type of thing. But also, are there times when it's like, oh, I'm feeling that depletion and I need to go inward because I just gave a lot of my power away. I need to like, you know, fill up my vial again, if you will.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This hour went by quick, or this amount of time. I don't even know how long it's been, but I'm like looking at the time going, oh my God, shoot, I have other things. I'm like, oh,
yeah, this has been fun. This is fun. Yeah, I love what you're doing with this podcast because, you know, I just wanted to add, I was introduced to human design 3 or 4 years ago, and I was like, oh, that sounds nice, you know, kind of.
Yeah.
And it was really, there was just the focusing on the type. The person introduced me to it. And so when this came back up into my space last year, I was like, this is fascinating. And there's so much, there's gold in it. And so I just appreciate you bringing this out and giving people opportunities to really see what the design is and know how to use it, not just say, you know, this is the way you are, deal with it, but how do you use it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's super fun for me. And I really, you know, I thank you for that feedback, because I have been purposely doing it this way, even though I do have some, you know, episodes where I'm kind of teaching things, but there's so many different aspects that go into it. Each person is so different. For me to explain things in these big ways, it's like, take the classes, you know, and I have links to the classes. People can take the foundational classes, like, because it's fascinating. But to see it in practice, to, you know, kind of see how it all goes together and synthesizes together can really help people to understand, like, there really is nothing wrong with us. There's really, it's all good. Like we're good. And I've worked with people who have, you know, like, there's no bad design, but some designs are challenging. They're literally built to be challenging, to challenge others, to provoke others, to be challenging. As much as yours is like to be love in the world, there's others that are to provoke in the world, you know. And one could look at that and go, well, that sucks, I don't want to be that. And I'm like, how could this actually be as loving, if not more so than this?
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's about the way we see it. It's all about the way we see it. And so I just appreciate you being willing to walk this journey with me and to share your design and your story today. It's just been super fun, and I love working with you, and I can't wait to see how this unfolds, this radical accountability, because it's such powerful work, and you bring such a beautiful, unique perspective to it that only you could bring, and it's so cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, my dear. So everybody else, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of Prosper by Design. Head over to chrispochaska.com and check out the resources I have for you to expand your energy intelligence, boost your creative potential, and profit with purpose, all in alignment with your design. Remember to choose goals that are worthy of you and your natural energetic design. It's a hell of a lot more fun to live and make money that way than trying to be someone you're not. You've got a genius that can only come through you. Wouldn't now be a good time to share it? I'll see you in the next show, and don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Until next time, take care.